and welcome to another video. Today's video is about A-level psychology and how I found A-level psychology, just some advice for people doing A-level psychology and how I revised and all of that in this one video. And I'm kind of worried I'm not going to be able to cover everything that I want to talk about, and I also think this video is going to be quite long just because I have a lot to say, because psychology is my favourite thing ever. I do have a video on how I found A-level geography, and so I was going to do a video on how I survived and how I dealt with A-level psychology, so I thought now's the time to do that. So that's what this video is for. A-level psychology, my favourite subject, best thing ever. If you're thinking of taking A-level psychology, I definitely recommend it, although I do know it's not for everyone. And hopefully this video can give you some insight into what psychology at A-level is like and some advice and all of that. If you just started sixth form when you're taking psychology, if you're in year 12 or year 13, or if you're in college taking A-level psychology, or if you are doing your GCSEs and you are thinking of taking A-level psychology, I hope this video is useful to a lot of people. So I'm just gonna get started because there are various things I want to talk about. Kind of written out what I want to talk. I'm just quickly gonna say how this video is structured. So I'm going to talk about the structure of the exam and exam board and content and all of that. Then I'll talk about the things that I study specifically, then the things I enjoyed and things I didn't enjoy, how I revised for my exams, and just some general advice. So that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. Okay, so structure of the exam. I did AQA, which is a pretty great exam board. Yeah, I think this was the 2016 or 2017 spec, not sure. I know my year was the first year to do this one, so that was 3 years ago because I did psychology for 3 years So yeah, so we did AQA. I enjoyed AQA. I think it was quite a good exam board, although I don't know, there's not much to say about it really, it's just an exam board, but that's what I did. And then the content, so it's written over here. The first 2 points are kind of the same. So I did AQA, I keep repeating myself, I'm sorry if I repeat myself in this video. I talk really quickly or I don't know how to explain everything very well. I'm not good at explaining things. The things we studied is, from what I remember, there are 3 papers. So you do AS, which is paper 1 and paper 2, and then in year 13 you do A2, which is paper 1, paper 2 and paper 3. At least that's what you do if you do an AQA and if you go to sixth form, because I know loads of colleges now you don't do an exam in year 12, you just do the year 13 exam, so therefore you wouldn't be doing paper 1 and paper 2 in first year, you would just go straight into second year, which first year you wouldn't have exams, but in your second year you would have paper 1, paper 2 and paper 3. So for AS you do paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 is introductory topics in psychology. Here you have section A, B and C, which is compulsory content 1, 2, 3. That is social influence, memory and attachment. Paper 2 is psychology in context, which is compulsory content 4 to 6, which is, again, you have section A, B, C. Approaches, psychopathology and research methods. So yeah, that's the AS content. That is what you will most likely learn in your first year, so year 12. If you are still doing the exam, that's the exams that you would have. Whereas the A-level content, which is A2 and the stuff you do in year 13. So in year 13 you have 3 papers. Paper 1, again, introductory topics in psychology. You have section A, B, C, D. So that is social influence, memory, attachment and psychopathology. Paper 2 is psychology in context, section A, B, C, which is approaches in psychology, biopsychology and research methods. Paper 3 is issues and options in psychology, which is compulsory content 8, and then optional content, which this depends on what sixth form you go to, what college you go into, but again you have section A, B, C, D. The compulsory content is issues and debates, and then the optional content, it varies. You have 3 kind of options that you can choose. So in the first option, you have relationships, gender, cognition and development. We did relationships. Option 2 is schizophrenia, eating behaviour and stress. We did schizophrenia. Option 3 is aggression, forensic psychology and addiction. We did forensic psychology. Yeah, that's the layout of the AQA content and so on. And those are the things I studied. Now I'm going to talk about my favourite and my least favourite thing in psychology that I studied. My favourite things, out of the AS content, it was definitely social psychology and attachment and psychopathology, because I am very interested in child psychology, which is something that I want to go into. I'm very interested in child psychology, that's why I really loved attachment. Psychopathology also because like when I first thought of doing A-level psychology, like that's what drew me to psychology. Social psychology because we learnt about like the main really well-known studies such as Zimbardo and Ash and Milgram. Fun fact, I mentioned this in one video, but I actually got to see Zimbardo at a lecture that he did in a university. It was in the city that I study in, but it was a different university. I got to hear him talk and my A-level psychology dreams come true, so that was honestly the best thing to happen to me like in that whole year that I had at uni. So okay, the things that I enjoyed in the A2 content was definitely forensic psychology, because I love criminal things like Criminal Minds and Mindhunter and any criminal movies, documentaries, TV shows. I love those. So forensic psychology was just the best thing ever. And schizophrenia, I kind of struggled with that because it was a bit confusing. So those things that I enjoyed. The things I didn't like was probably what everyone else studying psychology hates, which was research methods, biopsychology, and issues and debates. Research methods, oh my gosh, that was a battle. I hated research methods so much. Okay, it's like just the basic things that you have to know to perform your own studies and so on, but like when you go over it so many times, it just gets so boring because it's not interesting at all unless you are like really interested in going into the performing experiments and so on. But I hated research methods. It was annoying. There were so many things that I just couldn't like get my head around, and I just didn't want to. So biopsychology, okay, so there were some things that were interesting in this, such as learning about the sleep cycle. That was quite interesting, and the different parts of the brain. But biopsychology I didn't like because there was a bit of biology in it. So I have had quite an adventure with biology this past year at university, so comparing that to A-level psychology, I prefer A-level psychology, biopsychology. Issues and debates I hated because I didn't know how to answer the questions. I had to give evaluation points and it's just so hard to evaluate an issue or a debate. Like, I don't miss that. I definitely don't miss that. This year at uni I'm gonna have to do methodology, and that involves research methods, so I'll be having fun. One thing that I didn't mention was like the structure of the paper, so I forgot to mention that, so I'm going to talk about that really quickly now. So, and I also forgot to mention the like the structure of the paper and how long it's for and so on, so I'm going to quickly talk about that now. I knew there was something I forgot. So in A2 you have 3 papers, 3 hours each. That was fun. The kind of questions that you get is multiple choice questions. You get that in AS and in A2, so you've always got those to look forward to. You have short answer questions, which can be like 2 marks, 3 marks, such as name one of the attachment styles, and you just have to write 1 word, so that's like 1 2-mark questions. You also get like 4 and 6-mark questions. It's just like you just have to explain something, definition of something. I don't know, I can't give a good example right now because I don't remember, but I know that you do have those kind of questions, which are not too bad. In AS you get 12-mark questions. In A2 you get 16-mark questions, which is basically the same thing, but you just have to evaluate it more in A2. Okay, so an example of 12-mark questions would be explain and evaluate social learning theory. So you would explain it, you write about the definitions, the person, if there is any psychologist involved in what you're writing about, any studies that were done, and then you evaluate the theory, the study, the idea. You usually need 4 evaluation points at A2. At AS, I think you can get away with 2 evaluation points, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's best to have like 3 to remember, like a strength, a weakness and a strength or a weakness. In A2 you need 4 evaluation points. It was something that I struggled with because it's a lot of evaluation points to remember. It's good to know 2 strengths and 2 weaknesses for the 16-mark questions, and you usually get 3 16-mark questions or 2 16-mark questions in a paper. When I did my exam, I think there was like 3 in quite a lot of the papers, so that's not fun. You're literally just writing and staring at the clock. You think that 3 hours is a lot of time, but it doesn't seem like it when you're writing the exam, because 16-mark questions, they take quite a while, especially if you plan it out and think about it too much. I want to give as much information as I can in this video, but like my mind has just gone blank. What was I gonna say? If it comes back to me, I'll talk about it. If it doesn't, then oh well. I'll quickly mention things that I struggled with, like to go along with the things I didn't like about A-level psychology. The things I struggled with was, yeah, bringing it back to the 16-mark questions. It was definitely quite difficult to remember 4 evaluation points for literally every page of the textbook. There is a 16-mark question on literally everything, so that was always fun. Now I'll talk about how I revised and so on, and then at the end I'll just talk about some quick advice. How I revised. In my first year of A-level psychology, year 12, I didn't do too well. I got a D in the exam, which is terrible, but whatever. I've moved on from that. It was my first year of studying A-level psychology, and I think I was still in that kind of GCSE mindset where I just thought it won't be that hard, so I won't have to know the whole textbook, but you kind of do if you want an A or an A star. You're okay if you want a C, but if you want an A or an A star, you really have to know the textbook, the content inside out. A-level psychology, it's not a subject that you can just pass really easily. Like, you revise for it a week before the exam and there you go, there's your A star. If you really want to do well in A-level psychology, you really have to work hard and put the work in. It either has to be something that you really enjoy and you love studying, or it has to be something that you know that you're going to put a lot of work into it. How I revised in my second year of year 12 was a bit different because I kind of had the knowledge in my head already, so that whole year 12 was really boring. I just sat in the classroom like, this is really boring, I don't want to be here. That wasn't fun. I think the constant repetition definitely did help, and it definitely made the information stick in my head. Like, I could still recall quite a lot of evaluation points for quite a lot of things, so hopefully that will come in useful at university. There has definitely been some things that have come in helpful for me at uni, because I go to uni in Poland and people don't do psychology here as an A-level. I'm kind of like at an advantage to everyone else because I already have done research methods. I've already been through that, so hopefully it will be easier for me. How I revised in year 12 was basically just making sure that all the things that I struggled with, I basically learnt off by heart. Year 13, it was kind of the same, but I kind of had the AS like 100% okay in my brain. I could just focus on the A2 content. I got myself one of these books, which is a revision guide. We got given the textbooks, and I really wish that I kept mine now because I miss it. I liked carrying a very thick textbook with me. Oh, I opened on a cat page. The textbook, I definitely recommend you get yourself a textbook if your college, if your sixth form doesn't give you them for free, because it will be your best friend. And also I would recommend getting this because I know in the textbook there was so many things that I didn't understand just because they made it complicated, or they give you a whole paragraph when really all you needed to know is this is a weakness, this is a strength. This book is amazing because it gives you the AO1, AO2 and AO3. So AO1 is the description, AO2 I think is studies, and AO3 is evaluation. AO1 is just like description and knowledge and keywords and facts and so on. AO2 is any study. Yeah, here, I don't know what I opened it on. Oh, issues and debates. Yeah, here it just tells you what the idiographic approach is and like examples of it. This is a normothetic one down here. And here is the evaluation. This book is really cool because here it says 1 strength and then 1 limitation. So it literally tells you, is this a strength or a weakness? Because I know in the book there was quite a lot of evaluation points where I was like, I can't tell if this is a strength or a weakness. It could literally be both, but this one tells you. So if you're struggling with understanding the textbook, then this is definitely very useful to have, and I will link one of these down in the description so that you can get yourself one, because they are very, very like best thing ever. How I took notes. So basically I'm like very obsessed with having colourful and detailed and pretty looking notes because I'm a visual learner, I think. So if I have colourful things, I remember them quicker. If it's a mind map, I remember it quicker. So that's why I wrote down class notes in a separate notebook, and then when I got home I would rewrite everything into this neat notebook, and I've still kept it. Here's an example: free will and determinism. I'll insert a clip here of like a quick video of this book because I can't show it very well. Rewrite them because then I just had this one place full of notes that I could myself understand. I didn't have to turn to the textbook for extra help and so on. I also kept a folder, which again I will show in a clip somewhere here because I cannot lift this up. Folder. I've kept it because all my hard work is here. And I'm never getting rid of this, ever. The way I organised this, I'm not going to go into this too much because this video will be like 10 hours long. Here I kept any essays. We didn't do that many really, mainly in year 12. But any essays that I did, any past papers, any homework, any useful pieces of paper that were given out, mind map and essay plan. Now I quickly want to talk about mind maps and essay plans. Luckily I have some that fell out. This is one for origins of psychology. This is what it looked like, just a mind map with everything. This one's for approaches. I kept all my past papers because past papers will be your best friend. This is an example of a essay plan. I have these for everything, like every 16 mark question we could get, I have made one for every single one. It took me forever, that's why I'm keeping them until I die. These are so useful. I definitely recommend you make them yourself. I split this into AO1, AO2 and AO3, and I color coded them specifically. So orange would be all the like information, pink would be like psychologists and supporting studies and so on. This was definitely useful for 16 mark questions. Quickly, I'm just going to give you some really quickly useful advice. I might actually make a separate video or another psychology A-level related video if anyone wants one. I have three tips, I guess, for A-level psychology that I quickly will talk as fast as I can. First one is the 16 mark questions. These are so important. You need to know your 16 mark questions because you have no idea what kind of 16 mark question is going to turn up. So they're so important. That's why I made these little essay plans. So I definitely recommend you make some yourself. Evaluation is so important. There's so many like hacks that you can use to remember evaluation points. Like there was a riddle that I learned like the night before the exam, which was so useful, which kind of like has like 5 evaluation points that you can use on basically anything, but I don't remember it. But I know that it did include like just the basic kind of evaluations such as ethics. Is the study ethical? Generalizability. Is this study theory generalized to everyone? Was this study repeated? You can always talk about the methodology. If there's any study literally mentioned in anything, then you can talk about the methodology of that study. Culture bias, that's another one you can talk about. Is this theory an American theory? Can it apply to the collectivist cultures and so on? So those kind of evaluation points are always like, if you can't think of anything, just throw some of those in. The next thing I wanted to talk about was research methods. Research methods, it's annoying, we all have to do it, so you just kind of have to deal with it and just learn as much as you can and just keep going over the information. Know your key studies such as Zimbardo, Milgram, Ash. They are so popular. They are bound to come up at one point. I think I actually had a 16 mark question on Zimbardo and I answered it wrong. I couldn't tell who it was and I think I answered it wrong, but anyway. Know those really popular names and popular studies and create acronyms. They're very helpful. Like I had a little riddle that I made up for HM and some other studies, so that was very useful. Past papers, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. Past papers, they are just literally live your life in year 13 doing past papers. That's what I did. And I did so many past papers. I did them all. I did them all twice. I even did the ones from Edexcel. They were quite useful too. Look at the mark scheme. Just keep practicing. It tests your knowledge. You kind of know the layout of the exam and so on, so that's very helpful. I mostly revised psychology. I know I prioritized psychology over geography. So A-level psychology was definitely my favourite thing, and I basically revised it like every free minute I got. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about because I know this video is very long. I hope some of this was useful. It kind of explained A-level psychology as a subject to a lot of people. I just really hope I got across the points I wanted to. If anyone has any questions, then please comment them. Just some helpful, useful websites. Again, I will link them down in the description because there was quite a few that I loved. I know Physics and Maths Tutor, I talked about that in my geography. That is such an amazing website. It's amazing. the best thing ever, so definitely check that out. Yeah, I will have that in the description, and I think that is all. I think that's all that I wanted to talk about. Thank you for watching, and if you're taking psychology this year, good luck. It's definitely an amazing subject, and I look back on those days with a smile. Honestly, I preferred A-level psychology to my first year of psychology at uni, so thank you for watching.